All right. Oh, that's not my slide. Welcome to my Section 3 assignment. My name is Isabel Wright, and my presentation is over the Civil War, feminism, and LGBTQ rights. All right, so just to get started, the United States has faced many means of reform, and through all of this, there is hope to find change and bring a light to issues that may be inhumane or unequal. And I chose this picture because it shows like fighting towards rights, and most of the reform movements in the United States have actually been to fight for full equality or full freedom. And this all starts with the biggest reform movement known as the Civil War. So, the Civil War was a movement that was a struggle for many years, and this was a bunch of built up tension for many years. It was not just super apparent in 1 second. And it is still apparent in our world today, but it starts with the injustice against African Americans. And specifically, it starts with the slave plantations and unequal treatment, such as segregation. And so, according to this letter I read, it was to Mr. Roy Wilkins from Daisy Bates. The treatment, it's talking about the treatment of disciplinary treatment for behavior in Black schools of children had been steadily worse for the last 2 weeks in the form of kicking and general abuse. For instance, a boy who's had been suspended for weeks flunked both 6 weeks tests on his return to school. He knocked Gloria into her locker and was given indefinite suspension and sent for his punishment. So this is just one example of how schools were segregated and how it was unfair. And this movement was huge. The Civil War was huge against racial segregation and discrimination in the United States. And its purpose was to abolish slavery and create an equal place for both Black and white people, along with everyone in between, such as like Hispanics, Chinese, but the main focus was on African Americans versus white because of the slavery. And this huge push in American history really launched the fight for the next two reform movements that we're going to talk about next, which are the fight for LGBTQ and women's equality. And this was not just a movement for African Americans, but also for social justice, and it impacted the Civil War, LGBTQ rights, feminism, and many other things that came after it. All right, so the next thing is the fight for women's rights, and it starts out with feminism. And feminism was the political, economic, and social equality of men and women. And there's about 3 main waves of feminism, including the one that is very close to home, that was very recent, which is the #MeToo movement. And it was very important, especially for women's sexual rights and things like that. And feminism, according to Barbara Smith, in her book, This Bridge Called My Back, written in 1981, means feminism is a political practice to free all women, women of color, women working class women, physically challenged women, lesbians, old women, as well as white economically privileged heterosexual women, and anything less than that is not feminism, but nearly female self-aggrandizement. So it's basically just the fight that all women are equal and all women are equal to men. And so during the first wave was during the Great Depression, and women were told to do certain work like cooking, cleaning, seen in this picture, while men were allowed to work jobs in the labor force or go to war and do manly things. So women were also seen as inferior to men during this time, and this was really unequal because there's no opportunity for women to make the same amount of money that a man could make. So following the civil rights movement, women wanted to be more involved in the workplace and in voting in the government, everything, things like that. And